Hey, welcome back to another week of Crunching Your Growth, the show where we cut through the noise, find what actually moves the needle, and helps founders build real momentum. Today's guest is Seena Chriti, a Mexico-born culinary visionary, food media expert, entrepreneur who's built a powerful bridge between her cultural heritage and modern food innovation. She's the founder of Paktli Foods, a brand reinventing an ancient snack called alegrías. I hope I say that correctly. Alegrías, a 16th century Aztec tradition made from puff amaranth. So now upgraded into a refined, better for you treat using puffed amaranth, quinoa, and millet, blended with organic chocolates, dried fruits, and nuts with no additives, no preservatives. What I love about this story is it's not just a snack brand, it's a cultural storytelling you can taste, in which today, in today's environment, when you're building a brand, we love storytelling. So when you have a story to tell and you can do it visually and you can do it through video, it's just there's no end to how high you can go with it. And her packaging is inspired by the weavings of Oaxaca and a mission that employs immigrant mothers, creating confidence and opportunity while building a business. She launched during the pandemic, scaled quickly, earned major grant support, and was selected for PepsiCo's 2024 Greenhouse Accelerator Program. And she expands into bigger retail opportunities like Sprouts. So if you're building in CPG, food, retail, you're just trying to turn a meaningful idea into a scalable company, then this is the episode for you. So let's get into it and let's bring her in and start see where her journey started. Seena, thank you for joining us today. Very exciting story. I love the whole storytelling side of this. And but why don't you give us a little bit of a background into your journey, where you've been, how you came up with this, why you came up with it. You've got an extensive journey in culinary arts, so love to hear the whole story.
Yes, thank you so much. Very exciting. I love what you do. You are very inspiring yourself. So I would love to learn more about you and your journey. Um, I was born in Mexico and I studied culinary arts in a incredible liberal arts university that was a pioneer. It was a 5 year bachelor's degree that involved not only food and preparation, but also the relationship of food with other cultures and also other disciplines. So I learned about art, philosophy, psychology, anthropology, everything related to food. And during that development, after I graduated, I really had the need to promote food and to make it always remembered. So I wanted food to never be forgotten. And how is that? Through media.
Yeah.
So I was involved in magazines, newspapers, TV shows, TV segments talking about food and culture, and always in a very symbolic, historical way, not necessarily your typical competition food shows or easy cooking recipes or the books that only have recipes and no stories behind. I always want meaning. So I had this journey of many years of trying to get the gigs to going to TV shows, and I was able to do it throughout those 10, 15 years. Never something that would sustain me economically, but it was a passion project that I just had to get done.
That's a great story. I'll tell you something that I've never spoken about on this show. And we've been doing this show for 5 years, and a lot of people don't know about me. So this is something new that anybody who's following the show will find out. I actually have a culinary degree as well, and I actually studied pastry and chocolate with a well-known guy he's passed on now. But his name was Albert Kuman. He was a chocolatier, famous chocolatier in the New York region, worldwide actually. But yeah, and I I'm an Italian. I grew up in an Italian household, and I love the the blending of culture and cuisine. I think that there's so much you can learn from cultures just by studying the cuisine and the authenticity of the cuisine and how it all transpired and how people started building. So you have a fascinating story, and I really love it. I actually bought some of your products, and I thought they were phenomenal.
Mm, thank you.
So it's really interesting to me what you've done.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. To me, the food and what it means, you can access a culture through the food. Like when you travel, yes, you remember the museums and you remember the pyramids, but the food is what sticks. And also, when you travel from, like when you move, when you leave your hometown, and and you leave behind your family, what do you want to what makes you feel home is your food. So I think food is the most important aspects of someone's culture. Um, so yeah, I'm very proud to be part of the food industry.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think my daughter is every time she's away at college, and every time she's feeling certain nostalgia, certain homesick or whatever it is, she always gravitates towards food that
Mhm,
we have here, that we
mhm,
make here or whatever, and she'll make it in her apartment because it makes her feel more connected.
exactly.
Was very I grew up in an Italian household, and my grandmother, my aunts, they all cooked, and so I learned how to cook. We had a my some other parts of my family had restaurants, so I learned how to cook, and I learned how to cook authentic Italian food, and so I didn't want to lose that. As I got older, I very much still cook, and I taught my kids how to make certain things, certain recipes that we always did around certain holidays, so that again it doesn't get lost. Because
Mhm,
what happens is, as we get older, things just go away, and you wind up losing that connection to your family, I think. So I
yeah.
agree with you. I think it's a very important part of culture, and a part of family, and a part of making us feel connected.
Yeah. And right now, something so simple like bread, it seems so easy, but for ancient times to be able to understand that from wheat, you have to grind it, then you have to ferment it, and then make this loaf with them. So all of those things we take for granted, but the aspect of fermentation that exists everywhere, chocolate is fermented, coffee, cheese, wine, everything good is fermented. So there's always things that you could be wondered about in food.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so tell us about the inspiration for the brand, and why you decided to start that.
Yeah. So when I was a child, I used to go to the markets. I love street markets in Mexico. My mom is from the US, but she was always so appreciative of the culture. My grandma also, when she would come to visit us from the US, would love to go to markets and just buy everything, um, and call the women marchantas, and they would call her güerita,
Yeah,
marchanta is how you call the women in the markets. So I would buy alegrías, which was this precious street snack, uh, and made with puffed amaranth, and piloncillo, which is unprocessed cane sugar or chocolate. The
yeah,
chocolate version came in the 2000s or early. Um, so I left Mexico in my 30s, when I was 30, and I came to the US, and I've been always wanted to recreate my childhood snack. I have lingered with it, with my idea for 20 years. um, Always wanted to recreate that, and I've always wanted to have my own food manufacturing something, because although I like intellectual food work a lot, and
hmm
I've always wanted to be an academic of food, a philosopher of food, but I enjoy working with my hands a lot, so I
yeah,
dabble with bread making and other things. So, and I also love the interaction with people. So markets, like the very instinctual part of selling and trading.
yeah,
Um, so I started during the pandemic, just dabbling with the idea of getting the samples. I had the samples of amaranth from months before and some chocolates. And one day I was depressed in my couch and I said, I need to get up. So I got up and started making and gave it to my friends. And they said, Tina, maybe you have something here. Why don't you explore it? I had nothing to lose. I had $7,000 in my bank account, and I used them up to get what would be the first molds, my plastic molds that ended up being the ones that I used for 4 years to create my circles. And I found an incubator kitchen, and everything just falls into place when you have a very clear, specific idea. So for years I had been thinking so many ideas, but nothing came to fruition. Only when something really becomes clear in your mind do things align for it. So it was more of an unstoppable energy that just I could not do it. So I would be up at night from 10 to 3. That's when everybody was sleeping, and I was making my samples, ordering my ingredients, finding suppliers. And with this incubator kitchen that I found in Cincinnati that made my food um, permits possible,
Yeah.
within 6 months, I was able to create my first batch in the kitchen, super rudimentary, very scrappy. And I went to markets, to the farmers market in Cincinnati, which is an iconic market called
Yeah.
Findlay Market. And I started selling there. Of course, I was hand labeling, like
Yeah.
with plastic bags, and I spent hand labeling maybe a year and a half my product. One person helping me, and then with the first grant I got, I was able, it was a $30,000 grant from a local business starter. And that allowed me to print my first bag. So I spent maybe 10 hours a week for a year and a half hand labeling. So
Yeah.
that really helped. And then I brought in 7 Latina women to the kitchen to produce with me, increased my equipment so that we could make 3,000 pieces in one day. I didn't produce every day, but maybe every 2, 3 times a month. And that would last me for my markets for the next few months and local coffee shops.
Yeah.
So yeah, and of course, making Paktli with 7 women that became my sisters, and we were laughing and creating this beautiful energy. So the product, I didn't mention it, but the product, the name Paktli, it means joy in
Oh,
in the language of the Aztecs. And since I am honoring and recreating the alegrías, alegrías means joy in Spanish, and the Aztecs were they revered amaranth.
yeah.
They consider it like a god. They would make sculptures of it and take it to ceremonies. So the alegrías were kind of created by them, and then I wanted to kind of honor them with the name alegría in Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs. So just this whole joy making pakli with all my Mexican Latina friends really made sense. Yeah.
And how many years ago was this?
This was 5 years ago. So during the pandemic, the
During the
first, yeah, it was like a whole evolution that I continued hand making, maybe including more people every time, making my systems a little bit better. Um, then, of course, since I was always in markets, I kept receiving feedback, and I'm
yeah.
always listening to feedback, which is crucial and sometimes painful.
Yeah.
So, some people, the first time I heard this feedback I got so lucky. So this woman from Kroger, which in Cincinnati is the
Yeah.
headquarter,
Sure.
she's no longer there, but she was the natural product buyer, or the one that recommended the buyers about natural products. And
Yeah.
she said, I'm a fan of your product. I love it. I buy it in my corner store, but I have feedback. I'm like, yeah, sure. So she said, they are too large. Those big circles, they're crumbly, and people don't want to eat something so large. You need to make them in a bite size, in a stand up pouch. That's the only way you will grow. I was so naive. I started laughing in her face. And I said, how do you want me to make them in a bite size if I can barely make them in a big circle? You don't know how much money I spent figuring out my molds. And she gave me her card. She even invited me the next 6 months to be part of King Supers. And I said, I'm not ready. I don't even have a caddy, like a display for them. I'm still hand labeling women. So it was not my time. But she was so sweet that she kept kind of finding me in trade shows and guiding me and saying, don't worry, we'll wait for you. And it took me 2 years to find the right technology to make them in bites, because they're not cuttable. You cannot cut
No.
them. It's not like a granola bar. It needs to be molded. So I found this company through many guides and leads in Germany that makes this machine that forms the cereal with chocolate. And again, the stars align. I got lucky, and they said, we will not charge you for the trial. You cannot pay $3,000 for a day of trial. Just send us your ingredients. So I sent them 30 kilos of ingredients. They tested it and it was okay. It was good. And then I had to come up with $90,000
Oh my
to
goodness.
buy this machine, and I became certified woman and minority through the state and WeBank, and that allowed me to get non-interest business loans and one small investor. So I bought my machine, and again, I through farmers markets, I found a local co-manufacturer to host my machine and waited for me until I was ready for bigger retailers. And then I had to work with a consultant because my previous packaging was me with my designer from Mexico. And that came up with this amazing concept of honoring the weaves and textiles from Oaxaca, Mexico. But the messaging needed help. So this consultant helped me to come up with my pouch and the messaging there. Um, and then this was last year. So finally, we were able to do some testing in other retailers that were only like 3-month commitments, nothing too breakable. If they didn't work, it's okay. It was just test another feedback, Yeah, iteration. It's all about resilience and, um, there's hiccups on the way that break you.
There's look, I've been doing this a long time in my life. I've been through. I I did a presentation um, to a founder group of startups a couple of months ago, and I started out saying I founded 10 companies, 10 companies in my life. And everybody gets, oh, wow, that's great. I said, yeah, but only four have been successful. And so, everybody hits a wall. Everybody hits multiple walls. The growth curve is tremendous. I mean, you're constantly finding product and problems and things that you have to overcome. And it is truly resilience, like you said. You have to, but also the other piece that you said, which I think is extremely important, is that you just felt this energy and everything started falling into place, and that's when you knew. A lot of people don't get there. A lot of people don't build with their passion. A lot of people build because they think they see an opportunity and they go, okay, well, I'm going to go over there. You can't. You have to build with something that's passionate for you. And in all the businesses I started, the ones that I was passionate about, or the ones that were the closest to me, always worked out. The other
Mhm.
six were things that I thought I got ahead of myself. I thought, well, I'm a marketer. I can market anything. And, one was fashion. I don't know anything about fashion. I can barely dress myself, let alone dress other people. I don't understand fashion. I can't think 6 or 8 or 10 months ahead. I understand food. I understand beauty, and I understand personal care. Those are the things I understand. And so every time that I've gotten into trouble or had a failure, it was because I just did something because I thought, oh yeah, it should be easy. But it's never easy.
Yeah.
So I applaud you. I applaud your resilience. I applaud what you're doing. I think that it's phenomenal. It's a great story. And we've all been through, and you have to go through, I think, the to be successful, in my opinion, you have to go through those baby steps of hand labeling, taking your product out to the people, trying to find the right people to buy it, and then hearing what their feedback is, because that's the only way that you're going to learn. Too many people come up with an idea and they think it's brilliant and they start going, and they think that they misunderstand the difference between minimum viable product and product market fit. Right? Minimum viable product is exactly what you did, which is, I'm going to come up with this. I'm going to take it to the farmers markets. I'm going to hand label. I'm going to do as little as I can to figure it out. You go there, you listen to the people, and then here's this person from Kroger giving you great advice, saying, you have to make it smaller, bite size, which you wound up figuring out. And now you've probably got product market fit, or on your way to get product market fit.
It
And
still
then,
needs a lot. It still needs a lot of work, and I got feedback that is really, really hard. And I need to basically redesign my messaging, because although my packaging looks very attractive, like I have won pitches. Um, I won like in Naturally Network last year. I was the audience choice. I was a finalist with the Whole Food Sleep program, the one that has
Yeah.
like 1,600 applicants, and I was one of the last 26, and I was like almost number 11 according to what they told me in the feedback session. And they didn't say anything about my packaging not being like okay. But yes, I tested it in Sprouts, and it didn't perform as we all wanted it. So, and maybe I needed to put a lot more marketing money, but being a startup, I didn't want to bleed. So um, it didn't perform as well, so I need to go back to the drawing board again and rework my messaging. So that is a little bit above my expertise.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
Yeah.
there's always things to change, there's always challenges. I guess there's a few lucky ones that are able to go to market and get it right away
No.
and have a boom.
No.
But in my case, it hasn't been like that.
Let me tell you, I don't care what anybody tells you. Nobody has ever hit the market with a boom and it's taken off. I'll tell you a story about a guy. There's a guy named Joe Rotley. You have a dog. I heard your dog barking. I'm
I'm so
sure you're.
sorry.
That's okay. I love dogs. I'm sure you're familiar with a product called Greenies, which is in the pet stores. Greenies. It's a little.
Maybe.
It's something that the dogs chew that
Mhm.
cleans their teeth and
Yeah.
fixes their breath. He was so his wife. He was in his 50s. This is back in the 90s. His wife said to him, the dog's breath is terrible. You need to come up with something to fix it. He toiled away in the kitchen, came up with something, and it fixed it. So he said, well, let's take this to market. So he took it to market and they started selling in some local pet stores, going to just like you did in the markets, in the farmers markets, and they started to get feedback. And it was the same type of iteration where he was listening, changed his packaging wasn't right, tried again, packaging wasn't right. Finally, I think it took 3 years. He tells the story about how his wife had this spreadsheet because they were just playing with credit card debt to try and keep this thing going because he felt good about it until he finally got into PetSmart nationally. But it took 3 years. And then he took off to the point where he wound up selling 4 or 5 years later to Mars because they have a big pet division. But he's the classic story where I don't know anybody in my lifetime. I know people who say it, but I have never met anybody in my lifetime who can go back and say, "Oh, we started and it took off." Even people always point out to me because I was in the shaving business, and people always point out about Dollar Shave Club because they did this video and it took off. But what people don't realize is that he was out there for 2 years prior to the video
Yeah.
trying to get it right,
Yeah.
trying all these different things.
Yeah.
And then the video sort of elevated him. And then the
Yeah.
same thing, changes packaging, changes packaging, changes packaging. So
Yeah.
you're on the right track. Never discount what you're doing. You're doing 100% correct. And this is a typical process that entrepreneurs go through, especially with a product like yours. You have to work the messaging. Messaging is so important because you have to think about what the buyer, the customer, it's about them. So you have to think about what are they getting out of the product, right? What are you trying to sell them that's going to change their lives? So anyway, I thought your packaging was lovely. There's some things we can always all improve. So
Exactly. And I think the fact that it's not only a healthy, better for you snack, a
tastes good.
cultural it's also a culturally rich snack that is coming from another country, and it has this inherent appreciation of culture that I think is important, but the messaging needs to be very accessible. So I don't want to only cater to Latinos. I want to cater to everybody that has a cup of coffee in their hands. So, but they have to be appreciative of other cultures in order to appreciate my product. So yeah, it's a very fine line of telling the story in a very general way, an accessible way, um, to the population. There's a brand that sells pretzels made out of grain free. They are grain free non pretzels, and she's really, I don't talk with her personally, but I see her brand flourishing. And I always wonder, if she's so specific, how is it doing so well? Well, because she's catering to a market that likes pretzels. So I just need to learn how to sell it to a market that loves chocolate with puffy grains, but in a accessible way. Yeah, it's a lot of learning. And you can't be all. I can't be a marketer and a finance and a producer and a
No,
chemical, Yeah.
no, I understand. Believe me. The thing about what you just said, getting getting people to understand and be appreciative of other cultures, also relates to where you place your product, right? Because you have to think about the consumer in those various retailers. A Whole
Mhm.
Foods consumer is experiential. They'll try different things. They're appreciative of all the other cultures because that's sort of how it goes. Same thing
Yeah.
with, the Trader Joe's of the world and and the Sprouts markets and things like that. The traditional mainstream supermarkets, it's a little bit more difficult because those people are going in there for sustenance, and it's difficult without a lot of marketing help or advertising help to get people to even see what's on the shelf because there's so much on the shelf. So, but there's ways. That's just I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just trying to say
Mhm.
you're 100% correct. But you're right about the pretzels. I'll give you I'll give you a quick. We had this customer, well, client, and they make a sugar-free series of products, and they market it to like the keto and that audience that's doing it. But their products are it's traditional products. It's just that they're sugar-free, but they weren't telling the story correctly. And I'm a big fan of using video,
Mhm.
and we made they had this one chocolate spread, chocolate hazelnut spread, and they weren't it should have been a great seller. It was tasted fantastic, and they weren't getting the message across. And we took that and said, look, why don't we make a video, just make a quick video, nobody talking. We'll have a can of Nutella and a piece of bread and your product and a piece of bread, and we'll just show it smooth, showing it. And it got, I think, now over it's been a couple of years, but I think now it's over 10 million views. But then people got it because they said, oh, it's Nutella without sugar. And so, we sort of tried to normalize things that people can relate to.
Yeah,
When you have a product, but you don't want to do that on your packaging. You have to do it using other
sure.
other tools. Yeah, you have to do it visually. And I think personally, I love social media video. I think it gives tremendous opportunities to get product out there, to get things across that it's really difficult to get across with words, and you could do it visually.
Yep. Yeah, there's a clear example that I think it relates. When I started selling in my farmers markets, I was very descriptive of my product, but very faithful. So I would say it's a puffed ancient grain snack with amaranth, quinoa, millet, and I would be very faithful to its description.
Yeah,
And then one of my sales reps, I overheard her saying, "It's like a healthy Rice Krispie treat." Oh
yeah,
my God. I got so angry. I'm like, how do you dare say that? How can you describe my product as a healthy Rice Krispie treat? And she said, Sina, people are telling me that when they try it, they say it tastes like a Rice Krispie treat, like a healthy one. So I always got that feedback, but I never put it in my pitch. And when I heard her saying it, I scolded at her, and then I said, why not? Let's try it. And people are now understanding when I'm pitching them, it's okay. You can try it. It's like a healthy Rice Krispie treat. It really tastes like that. So it's okay to let everybody wants to familiarize it with something. Oh, it's like a Star Crunch. I don't even know what a Star Crunch is
yeah, yeah,
because I'm not from here.
yeah,
But yeah, in Mexico, people get it so well. Like right now, I don't know if you see that Water for Chocolate series in HBO, but the first one and in the second season is about the alegría making. So it's
Yeah.
so inherent in my culture, but here they have to relate it to something. We
Yeah.
all, yeah.
Yeah. It's the best way to get it across to people. Sometimes you have to flex, um, and that's sort of the way that I would use that messaging for that it tastes like a healthy Rice Krispie treat is I would do a tremendous amount of user generated content. I would give free product out to micro influencers and I would give them that pitch line and have them say, repeat this line, use this line in what you're pitching and when you make your videos, because that's going to get their constituency, their followers, to understand it and want to try it. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
it's like a healthy Rice Krispie treat. Everybody loves Rice Krispie treats, except the problem with Rice Krispie treats is they're full of sugar.
Mhm.
So yeah, sometimes that's how I would use it, because you might not want to say it, but others, you might want to get others to say it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good lesson of humility.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think humility is a great attribute to have when you're doing a startup, because too many times people get so tied to the product. Like, you have to understand it the way that I understand it, and you can't expect people to. They're just not going to. So you have to listen like you do. You have to listen, you have to take it in, you have to think about it, and then you have to say, okay, well, there's something here, and let me see how I can use that. That's just the best way. I think that one of the failures of entrepreneurship are entrepreneurs who are so stuck on their way of doing it that they don't listen to consumers. They don't listen to who their customer is and what the feedback is, and then they wind up failing.
Yeah,
And it happens. I mean, I see it happen all the time. And I coach a lot of entrepreneurs trying to get trying to scale, and it frustrates me because I can't make decisions for them. I can only guide them. And
yeah.
when I hear, like, oh, the client, the customers, they don't get it, they don't understand my product, and I always say the same thing, like,
You don't
they don't
understand the customers.
yeah, you have to understand the customers, and you have to figure out a different way to get your message out there, because you can't get frustrated or you're not going to have any customers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's great. So I also, in your bio, I read that you were in Monte Carlo for a while.
Yes, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, when I finished college, when I was finishing college, I we received this person in our university. It was a French man that made a lot of money in Mexico in real estate, and then he went to Monaco and became the Mexican consulate
Oh,
of in Monaco. And he wanted to give back to Mexico by bringing students in the hotel industry, because that's what you can do in Monaco. And he brought culinary arts and hotel management students to Monaco, but we had to previously study French and build a curriculum. So I did as much as I could. I studied 2 years of French, and there was 500 applicants. It was the second generation, like second year, 500 applicants, and I was one of 15 chosen to go. And it was a 1 year scholarship,
oh,
all
wow.
paid for, and it was 10 girls, 5 boys, and we stayed in an apartment with the view of the ocean at the top of
Wow.
Monaco. And it was study French, and then we had 2 days a week we had a little bus with the chauffeur that would take us to the south of France to visit museums, vineyards, cheese places, and restaurants. And we would eat 5 course meals, go to the markets. it
Oh
was
my
it was
goodness.
my it was a dream. By month 4 or 5, I was already fluent in French. And then he sent us to Paris for New Year's 2000, and then to Rome for a week. And he was such a precious man. And then
That's
the next 6 months, we studied in an actual like French school, hotel management. And then the last 2 months, sorry, the last two
that's
months
okay.
we worked in hotels. So I worked in the hotel, the Monte Carlo Grand Hotel, for 2 months, and then we finished. It was the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, it's a beautiful country, small but beautiful,
Yes,
and a once in
yes.
a lifetime opportunity to be able to live there, because it is very expensive to live there.
Yeah, yeah. We were very. very restricted in our, I mean, we were covered, all food was covered, transportation, we didn't need anything, but we had totally prohibited to visit the casino. And we also worked extra shifts, like in as catering and things like that. I actually was in oh my god, my dog, so
That's okay.
sorry. I actually was invited to be at the Monte Carlo Grand Prix,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and I was a hostess or waitress in one of the boats, that the yachts, and I saw the Monte Carlo Grand Prix right there. So without all of that extra work, we were able to travel a little bit on weekends, and whatever spare money I had, I spent it going to cultural events. So I did the whole opera season and the symphony. Yeah, it was really a beautiful year, and I didn't need anything. I never went shopping. It was just a sustainable way of receiving a culture. He gave me a language. It was a gift of a lifetime.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's great.
yeah.
I was it difficult to learn? I just off the subject, but was it difficult to learn French as a because they're sort of rooted in the same like French, Italian, Spanish.
Yes.
They're sort of rooted in the same Latin base. Was it
Yes.
easier for you or more difficult?
No, it was very difficult. I don't consider myself a gifted language person. Some people really, I mean, when I grew up with, of course, Spanish and English, and some Hebrew in from school. Give me, Natalia, apaga el horno, por favor, urgente, ma. It was really that. But then when I started learning French, I felt the Hebrew words leaving my my brain. Like I could literally feel physically how the Hebrew was leaving my brain while French was coming in. I'm not a big multitasker. So it was really ingrained in me, really rooted, but it took me a very long time. I was quite fluent. At the end of my year in Monaco, I was really fluent.
That's great.
It's been 20 years, but I love it so much. That is my language of choice. English was given to me by my mom. Spanish is my language, but French is my language of choice. If you ask me, that one is the
Yeah,
one I choose. Yeah, yeah,
Italian is my language of choice, but
yes. Do you speak it from your family? Did they teach it to you?
yeah, yeah. My grandmother was from Italy. My aunts were from Italy. So the whole family. We grew up. I grew up in New York in the Bronx, and we had like the whole family was there within two or three houses within.
Yes,
So it was constant, and you know it was. It was great. I mean, I loved it, but I was, it was a house of women. I have two
yes,
sisters. I have a mother, my grandmother, my aunts, and then there was me. And so it was, Philip did this, Philip do this, Philip do this. So, but I always helped cook because
yeah,
I liked, I like to eat. And so I liked to cook, and I learned all the things that they taught. And the interesting part was that my grandmother was from the southeast of Italy, and my aunts were from the Midwest of Italy, and two different cuisines, two different cultures, two different. They made things. They didn't make the same food, and if there was crossover, it was completely different. So
mm,
something as simple as a lasagna, which everybody in the world knows, right? But the lasagnas that are made here in the United States are not what's made in Italy, and there's 3-4 different types of lasagna that my family made from 3 or 4 different regions, and and then holiday foods and things like that. And to me, I loved it because the family always got together on Sundays to eat. So it was all different food on Sundays, but there were specific foods that we ate at specific times of the year for specific holidays, and so it was it was interesting. So I love food, and I relate food to my family. Um,
yeah,
and but let's get back to business. So what do you think now? You're rolling along, you're going places with the brand. What do you think is your biggest pain point to growth right now?
so the word Pain in pain point, I think, is very important. um, right now, I'm facing a huge challenge, and why not be honest about it? Um, so throughout the the history of the business, I've had major setbacks and challenges, but they have not necessarily felt that my business was at risk, although it was, but I didn't have that sensation.
Sure.
So I'll tell you a few and then I'll come to the now. Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
So when I was gonna receive the machine, um, I had this order from Sprouts, and I said yes. I committed, and the machine just after I committed said no, it won't be ready on time.
Oh,
I could have said I have to postpone the order, but I didn't. And I, since I already knew that I was able to hand make a production, I figured out a way of making the bites by hand, which was a totally different way of producing. So I came up with new molds, and of course, my team of seven was not gonna cut it. We had a $30,000 bag order,
oof.
and I ended up mobilizing Cincinnati, like Finley Market, helped me get volunteers. I got 15 volunteers. We handmade that production.
Oh my goodness.
It took us 3 weeks, and everybody gave me their time for free.
Wow.
And it was really, really well. Some people I paid, but it was really an incredible. And they all wanted to help this Mexican cookie lady, and it was really a labor of love. And we made 1.5 tons of bites by
Wow.
hand.
Wow.
In the end, that wasn't the struggle. In the end, I started mixing my grains, and I found um, rocks in the mix of the chocolate.
Oh, oh.
And I understood that they were not rocks from the floor; they were like hardened fiber from my grains. And I my supplier confirmed it, and they said yes, that should not have happened. They must have not been sifted away. It is not, like, it is a physical contamination, not a chemical or a, but it's not something that you can have in your product.
Right.
So we opted for not shipping out.
Oh,
It was the end of production, like the last day that I noticed it. It must have been a very small batch of the grains, not the whole production. I could have been saved, but I we of course opted of not. And Sprouts really commended my ethical and integrity, and they said thank you. I mean, you did the right choice. My grain supplier was incredible, and they, paid what they needed to pay for me to get my ingredients again. And I'm still working with them because they implemented all the security measurements after that and during. And um, so that, like, from the outside, could have been a breaking point.
oh
And i
yeah.
i did not see it as a, there was of course no lawsuit on anybody, not from me and not to me. um, and took me weeks to recover physically just from the production, and then mentally from this. um, but I met with Sprouts. They said, yeah, you're good, we will, when you're ready, let us know. And then the machine arrived, and then I started from zero a few months later. And then a year later, I sold to Sprouts.
Ah,
But that one was one of the largest painful
yeah.
tests I've had. But I never felt that I was broken. But that never felt that I was defeated or not continuing. But yes, time and burnout do get to you.
Sure.
So it's been already 6 years, and every money that I have received has gone back to the business. So I've never actually paid myself, and I have that has been really tough. Um, and now I'm facing another challenge, which from the outside, you can do it, Sina, but this is a large one that is really, really causing me a lot of questioning, and that is that my co-packer, my actual co-packer, went bankrupt in September.
Oh,
Yeah. They were really a good partner of mine. They were so supportive and really understood my low volumes at first and worked with me. They went bankrupt, but they, produced a lot for me before so that I could at least go through this year with my lower volumes, not necessarily growing. So that's a huge challenge for me. And that combined with the launching sprouts that they produce for me, but I got the feedback from how it performed right after the production, that right after they closed down. So now I have a no co-packer, and then I have feedback from Sprouts from a nationwide launch that says your product didn't perform well. Your packaging needs to change. They weren't specific, but I know it's the messaging because I know the velocities would be better if your messaging is there. So that's a major blow combined with the production. And then I'm also getting another feedback that is, I already solved it, but it's painful. And is it okay for me to open up like
Oh,
this?
yeah, yeah, go ahead. That's what this show is all about.
Oh my God. Okay. So this next feedback also fell in the same place, which thank God is solved and it's an easy one. But the grains that I use are puffy like popcorn. When you try the product, you must have felt they're soft. They are not
Sure.
crunchy. Popcorn is chewy,
Yeah.
but people expect that from popcorn. But when they see a snack, they expect crunch. So with my big I've been using the same grains all along. I didn't change grains from my bites. But with the big circles that we were hand making, we were using more chocolate to keep them together. And yes, they would say that they're crumbly, but they never said that. I kind of knew that they were soft. So that's why I put in my packaging soft and pillowy. Um, because I knew they weren't crunchy. But with the bites, that softness really stands out.
Mm.
And I'm getting feedback from people. Oh, I got it at Sprouts. But you know what? Are they stale or are they supposed to be soft? I'm like,
Oh,
I'm like, they are not stale. They are supposed to be soft. And I do not want to hear that feedback anymore. That is not what I want to hear. So I called my grains and I said, can you give me crispy grains, please? Or I'm going to have to shift suppliers. And they said, yes, we get that feedback all the time. We lose customers because they want crunch. We are developing a toasty version of them. So they sent me samples. They are perfect. So when I produce again, if I produce again, they will be toasty, crispy.
but you own the machine to
I
produce.
do. I do. I own the machine. Yes.
And where
Yeah.
is that? At the
No, so it is warehoused in another co-packer that I'm talking with that is very promising, that has a beautiful chocolate manufacturing company near me. I'm just waiting for them to be ready. And there's a set of requirements. So if I start working with them, I will need to reprint my bags fully because
yeah,
of the certifications and the kosher one and the organic, things like that. So I would have to waste my 20,000 bags and start from zero with them.
yeah.
But yeah, so this challenge this year, I am really questioning the existence because you don't get paid for 6 months, for 6 years. You have been thrown many, many times, and now you are basically from zero in terms of texture, packaging, messaging, and production. Like, come on already. And no backing, no investor backing at all. So, yes, I am now questioning a lot. It's really, really a tough moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand it, but the only thing I can say to you is that many an entrepreneur have quit right before they were heading to the goal line
Hmm.
because they've hit things like this. It's common. Um, I I can't even tell you how many times I've been in this position that you're in, where you just want to fold. You say, I can't do it anymore. I haven't taken a salary. You know, everything is working against me. And then I pushed through, and then all of a sudden there was sunshine at the other end. I mean, it took another 6 or 8 months or a year, but just by pushing through, all of a sudden it was, so I mean, if I were coaching you, I would say, look, let's sit down and list the pros and cons, and let's see if there's a way out of this. And let's see if there's a way to get capital in the company as well to, to keep going and take a salary and take some of the pressure off. But I, you know, we, I'd have to know a little bit more. But anyway,
Mhm.
unfortunately, I enjoyed this conversation, but unfortunately, we're out of time. Um, and I really appreciate you coming on. And yes, that's exactly the type of discussion we want to have on the show, because we want entrepreneurs to get a realistic view of what they're up against. And, these are the things that we do face, all the time. But hang on after the show, and let's talk a little bit.
Mhm.
But I have to. Unfortunately, we are out of time, and so let me just. It was awesome. I really appreciate you being so open and honest, and I think that you took heritage, you took product integrity, packaging, and mission. You turned it into traction. You've hit some stumbling blocks, but for everyone who hit this, watch this episode, go rewatch it and take notes, because, Seena dropped some of the kinds of specific founders can actually use. You can actually understand and relate to it, because I'm sure a lot of you have met some of these challenges. So again, if you want more real founder conversations, real growth strategies, then subscribe, share this episode, and stick with us. We'll see you next week.